Welcome to
On Screen.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
1.21 gigawatts!
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I am the one who knocks.
That's what she said.
Not great, Bob.
Shall we begin?
Hello and welcome to another episode of On Screen. I'm your host Dylan Wright, and I'm here to take you on a journey through film and television. Well, the time has finally come, everybody. A new Star Trek show is finally on the air. Well, not quite on the air, as CBS, the company that currently has the rights to Star Trek and is broadcasting the new Star Trek, it's on a streaming service now. It's on CBS All Access, which I'm not too happy that I have to subscribe to yet another service. I'm already subscribed to Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO, Showtime. I'm in too deep, and the fact that I have to subscribe to yet another subscription service is a little disheartening. But there's a new Star Trek show out, Star Trek Discovery. It just premiered on Sunday night, and I have some thoughts on it. I watched the two-part episode, the Vulcan Hello and the battle at the binary star. And I have to say, while I don't quite get a full Star Trek feel from the show just yet, I'm invested. I think that it was a great first two-parter, and I felt like they did a good job establishing the main character of Michael Burnham. And while the first half of the episode was a little exposition-y, if you will, the second half was amazing. It really captivated me and kept me on the edge of my seat. I really didn't know what was going to happen and how they were going to get out of the situation that they were in. But the show has been plagued with production problems. It's been delayed a dozen times, and honestly, I didn't have too much hope for it. They showed the preview for what was going to happen in the coming season, and I was actually getting really excited about it, just looking at what was going to happen and seeing what was really happening. But before we get to the future, we have to talk about the pilot episode, and I'm going to flash a spoiler warning. If you want a spoiler-free review of what I think of the show, be sure to check out my article on The Woodward. I review the episode, and make sure that I don't spoil you to anything. So if you've watched the episode, stick around, listen to my ranting, and have a good time. But Star Trek Discovery, it starts off with a cold open that I think doesn't really work with the rest of the episode. It sets up our main character a little bit, but not by much. You get some instances of her rapport with her captain, Philippa Georgiou, played by the legendary Michelle Yeoh, who, of course, was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, so how could you not think this woman is amazing? But this opening scene doesn't really serve any purpose other than to give us exposition about the characters and their relationship with each other. I think that exposition and character background is done a little better as we continue on with the episode, as we get flashbacks to Michael's past on Vulcan, being raised by none other than Spock's father, Sarek, after her family is apparently killed in a Klingon raid to an outpost. Oh, and by the way, Klingons are the villain again. The Klingons have been through a lot. They have so many different looks and backgrounds and different ways that they're portrayed, but in this iteration, it's, of course, a prequel, so we're currently in the Cold War of the Federation and Klingon Empire, and Michael accidentally reignites the Cold War and makes it a hot war. But the Klingons are, I guess they're supposed to be an allegory for Trump supporters from what I've read. And I can see where that's coming from. They're talking about unity and how the Federation wants to destroy what they hold dear. And Sarek mentions that a lot of great unifiers have to rally behind a certain cause, and that might be detrimental to the well-being of everybody. And it's a poignant kind of comparison. And it really goes to the heart of Star Trek, how they're always tackling social issues and things that are important in today's society. So in that aspect, it definitely feels like Star Trek. But in the feel of the show itself, it feels a little more like new J.J. Abrams Star Trek in how polished and how much the camera is tilted. There's a lot of Dutch angles in this episode, and it's a little disconcerting. It's supposed to give you unease, but I don't know if they're trying to do that on purpose or if it's just unintentional. They just thought the angle looked cool. I thought that the crew of the Senshu, the ship that Michael serves as first officer on, was pretty well fleshed out. You don't get too much from the other characters because, well, a lot of them die and are never seen again, but like Saru is pretty well played by Doug Jones, who is an amazing puppeteer type dude that is really good with body language and putting on prosthetics and making it seem natural. He was in the Hellboy movies as Abe Sapien, and he's been in a bunch of other things. Pan's Labyrinth, he was the Fawn and the Pale Man, so he's a really good physical actor, and I think he portrays the humor of Saru pretty well. As a species that senses death, there was a pretty ominous moment between Saru and Michael in that case, and it was kind of chilling. In terms of the main character of Michael, I think that her dialogue at first was a little stilted. I was saying to myself, she has to be from Vulcan or something because no normal person would talk this way. And of course, she turned out to be raised on Vulcan. It was still a little too stilted for a character we're just getting introduced to. We should have had a little more, playfulness, I guess. But as the episode went on, I was warming up to her a little bit. And I definitely liked the captain. Michelle Yeoh is amazing. And she really plays the captain well and hits the emotional beats very accurately. Speaking of emotional beats, there was one scene where I was so surprised at where the show was taking me that it gives me hope for the future of the show. You're trained to think that when the main character gives an idea to captain or a leader, that the leader will be like, okay, let's do that idea. Basically, leading up to this, Michael goes over to this alien artifact that they see, and she runs into a Klingon and accidentally kills it. And she comes back, and the Klingons are basically calling out to their different houses to unite and fight the Federation. So Michael contacts Sarek and asks, what did the Vulcans do when they came up against the Klingons? And Sarek tells her, well, we attacked them on sight. So Michael goes to the captain, hey, we need to attack them now. And the captain's like, no, that's stupid. That's not a good idea. Why would we even do that? That's provoking. We're outgunned. We can't do that. So Michael is insubordinate and yells at the captain in front of the crew, and the captain pulls her into her quarters and is like, that is a good way to destabilize the crew. And then Michael Vulcan neck pinches the captain and knocks her unconscious, which is something I was not expecting at all. And it was really powerful to see our protagonist do something that's a heel turn. She goes out, and you think, again, okay, now that Michael's in charge, they're going to be okay and they're going to be successful. But then the captain wakes up and pulls a phaser on Michael. And you're like, what is happening? This is crazy. And then all the Klingons swarm in, and it was a really good cliffhanger ending to the episode, and it kept me invested after what was kind of a boring first half of the full pilot. But then the second half is really action-packed. You feel the power and the weight of the Klingon threat, and you see what kind of damage they can do in terms of devastation and hurting people. The captain ends up dying by the hands of the Klingon leader, and the Klingon leader in turn dies by the hands of Michael, making him a martyr for the Klingon cause. Again, you think that, okay, Michael basically committed mutiny, but she's going to be fine. They're going to be like, oh, it's understandable. Yeah, it was dire circumstances, and we're going to give you command of the ship, or we're going to make you first command of this other ship since your ship is destroyed. But no, she's sentenced to life in prison. And you're like, oh, our main character is going to be in prison. And of course, she's not going to stay a prisoner on a prison planet for the whole series. She's going to end up on the crew of the Discovery somehow. But it seems like her betraying her crew and her captain is going to be a dynamic that's going to continue through the show. And I absolutely love that. I love the serialized aspect of the show. Other Star Trek shows like Deep Space Nine had a serialized aspect, and I honestly think that it allows for more character development and depth of story when you have the consequences of someone's actions in one episode continue on through the rest of the series or the rest of the show. And I think that it's well executed. I like everybody that's acting in it. I was upset that I didn't get to see Jason Isaacs in action this episode, but it did a great job setting up where our main character of Michael is going to be for the rest of the show. It was almost a prequel for the main show, and hey, I'm invested. I'm going to continue my CBS All Access subscription, although I really don't want to spend more money, but hey, I love Star Trek, so. And I would recommend it. It's definitely not quite to the overall feel of Star Trek, but it's getting there. I can feel it starting to get there, and it's an investing show. I definitely want to keep watching to see what happens next. And I think that's all you could really ask of a show, is to keep you invested, keep you hooked, make sure that you're continuing to watch and enjoying it. And I had my doubts about Brian Fuller as the executive producer, because while I love Pushing Daisies, I felt that his show Hannibal was not executed as well as it could have been. It was a beautiful show, and there was a lot of really good parts about it, but I felt that it fell flat in certain areas. And I think one of those areas was the protagonist, Will Graham. But I think that Michael Burnham, as played by Sonequa Martin Green, is doing a very good job as the main character. And it's cool that we're not following a captain as the main character. We're following the first mate. And hey, it happens to be a powerful female character who is steadfast in her convictions and sometimes is wrong. So I love that she's not perfect. I love that we see our protagonist fail in the first episode, basically. It sets her at a bar that's very low, and a point that's so low, and we only see her either rise to the occasion or fall. So that's going to be it for this week's episode of On Screen. If you have any future topics that you'd like me to discuss, please comment them below. I would love to cover anything that you'd like to hear. And as always, until next time, take care.
I'm done. Goodbye.